All right, this is going to be our first of 2 calculator tutorials in Chapter 6. This one really goes along with Section 1. It's how to get the mean and standard deviation of a probability distribution. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to need is to have one, a probability distribution. Typically, it's possible that you can be given the information and you need to write it yourself. More commonly, it's just going to be provided. The one I'm using is actually taken from your notes. It's the one on the car sales on a Friday. Just got 4 categories, so it's not tremendously long. Though this feature gets more valuable the bigger your table is. But typically, to calculate these 2 things, you want to use it no matter what. Okay. Now to get started, it's nothing new. We go to Stat and Edit. That technically was the data, but I didn't want it in there yet. But that's okay. So we go to Stat and Edit, and then in list number 1, we need our outcomes. Now, if you don't have access to the table that the one I'm talking about in your notes, that doesn't matter. You can just, copy what I put in. There's your 4 outcomes. Okay. And now, like at this point, this is going to use a feature that we've used before, that if we had wanted, we could go back to Stat and Calc and get mean and standard deviation. But the probability distribution gives us the frequencies of these outcomes. For example, that no cars were sold at this dealership on Fridays 30% of the time. They sold 1 40% of the time. 2 20% of the time, and 3 just 10% of the time. And at this point, we basically have our probability distribution table. Entered into the calculator. Okay. So now we'll go back and go to Stat Calc. Okay, again, a feature that we have seen before. I want 1 variable stats, but we need to stop here. Okay. This was always kind of an interesting little spot when we first used it, that we'd hit enter and then we would basically hit enter again. And we're like, what's with the little intermediate stop? This is why. Okay. You probably have the prompts, and under the first one, you already have list 1 filled in. Then below, it says like FREQ or something like that, which is short for frequencies. Before, we just left it blank because list 2 was blank. Now I'm going to tell the calculator, use list 2 for the frequencies. Right? That's how often those outcomes are happening. Then if I hit enter, right up here, there's my mean, 1.1. And then down here, here's sigma for my standard deviation of about 0.943. Okay? Again, a feature we've used before. The only new things is frequencies go in list 2. And then when you go to calculate, make sure to tell the calculator that you've got your frequencies stored in list 2.